Hey guys, welcome back to the interview call. My name is Tyson Matsuki. This has been an interview I've personally been looking forward to, and I'm glad that I can give it to you guys. So here we are, straight from Manchester.
Hello, this is XboxAhoy, and I'm delighted to be here.
The honor is mine, Mr. Brown, Stuart Brown, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine, but you're talking like I'm some sort of celebrity. I'm just a dude that makes some COD videos.
Well, I don't know if it would be flattering or like you're my personal COD celebrity out there on YouTube. So, like even before we started this, I've been like hyperventilating. Like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe it. And this is a part of the interview call that when I conceived it at first, I wanted to have Stuart on the show. And I'm glad to finally have him. So,
I'm a very elusive guest.
yeah.
I don't really go for the whole sort of self-promotion thing. I don't know.
Elusive in the way that and this is something that I'm gonna let you guys sing. I've been planning this interview since like April or something. That's when I first sent you the email. I think it was
something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. But nonetheless, he's here, and I'm real happy. So let's just get started with before I get into the whole why you're known as XboxAhoy. You went for school for something. Do you have a preparation, so to speak?
I studied electronic media design at university, it was kind of a new course at the time, but it incorporated multimedia design, graphic design, and a few other bits and bobs as well.
Did that course in some way included web development?
It touched on web development, yeah, but my own personal interest prior to going to university, actually, that was where I learned the most of my web dev skills. And then from there, after university, I carried on web development as a hobby, and I eventually found work in that sort of industry.
What kind of projects did you indulge in while in the web development area? Prior before finding a job.
Finding a job,
yeah.
I'd all sorts of websites. I mean, I'd a lot of experimental stuff, a lot of just single purpose websites. I also did websites for friends, and I was a DJ at the time. I was whilst in university, I ran a DJ night, and I had a web page for that, and I had a website advertising my own web design services, that sort of thing.
We're talking about which time period, more or less?
Oh, this would have been. I started getting into web design about 1999, and then this will carry on throughout university from 2000 to 2003. So that's the sort of time period.
Okay. So. From what I read, you held a job at a store called Area PC and Expenses. Did you work professionally in a way with some other people, or these were like your main employers besides your own homemade stuff?
Those are my two major jobs. Before that, I have done some other minor stuff. Nothing professional really. I just did some summer work.
Okay.
And other than that, I did do some freelance stuff whilst I was at university. Just odds and ends, helping people out who needed websites, that sort of thing.
And the language you mainly coded in or proficient with, what was it?
Ooh, back in the day, probably PHP.
Okay. For the people that may not know, can you give us a little bit of background at least on these two stores that you work on? Because I believe they're exclusive to the UK, right?
Yeah, they're Expanses is global. Aria, though, it's based in Manchester. They're a reasonably large company, and they sold a lot of computer components via e-commerce.
And I'm taking a guess here. Is that when you started taking an interest in computers, or just like?
Oh no! I mean, I've always been interested in computers.
Okay.
I mean, since a very, very early age.
Yeah. The Expenses part, I wasn't really sure because at least myself, I haven't heard the company before. But most of but these guys are just just sell a component part for PCs, right? For building PCs.
They're more they're sort of more towards the mobile and cellular area, PDAs, and sort of technology. You know, the general sort of technology area.
Okay, I may be at risk of of getting you in trouble with either camp, but which one of the two did you enjoy working for the most?
Oh, there's no doubt of that. The job at Expanses was very much the better job.
Okay.
I don't mean that as a slight towards my time with Aria, because it was a really good learning experience. But as far as a job, it maybe wasn't the best.
All right. So up next, I got the whole. I've been reading through a few blogs that you made. I wanna start with Modern Life. Built in 2006. Would it be accurate of me to say that it was just a website of statistics, advice, maybe trends of where the web development could go until the next century? For example, we're talking in 2006 here.
Yeah, well, I've always had kind of an analytical mind, I suppose, and Modern Life was it was a chance for me to sort of try my hand at some analytical writing in the professional field that I was working in at the time. So yeah, I did some analysis of some data sets that I managed to get hold of, and yeah, I just talked about the future of web development and that sort of thing, and that was reasonably successful. That blog, I actually got quite some attention from it back in the day.
All right. The quality of the writing was actually pretty good. Would you consider that among your interests is also teaching people?
Teaching is, yeah, kind of. I don't think I'd want to be like in front of a room of people teaching, but the idea of preparing educational materials, for instance, in video format, that appeals quite a lot.
Okay. And 4 years later, we got let's see. Yeah, 4 years later. We got the blog user interface. Talk a little bit about it.
User interface was kind of a reboot of Modern Life. I haven't really invested that much time in it because my video making has taken the forefront of my efforts. But yeah, user interface is kind of on the back burner. But if I ever got back into doing web development content, that sort of arena, that would probably be the platform I'd use.
And allow me to introduce another project that has been in the back burner, Ludocal. What happened to that?
Ludocal, I just had I had a programming itch that I needed to scratch. Mm-hmm. So with my time at Expanses, I got into .NET development, and I really like .NET. I just like Visual Studio, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of the C# language. Mm-hmm. So Ludocal was just a chance for me to sort of experiment and you know, like I say, scratch that programming itch. And unfortunately, it was quite an ambitious project, and again, I didn't have the time to see it through to fruition. But you know,
we're basically talking about a website that, from what at least I could see, because it was rather incomplete, a database of games that are coming, probably links on where to buy them.
Yeah, essentially, it was a gaming calendar, just sort of automatically corralling and sort of listing all of the gaming events.
Okay. Something caught my eye user interface when you talk about creative dishonesty. If you were to go back to user interface, would it be more the kind of which you would write of? Like, do you enjoy writing about possibly controversial topics, at least in this field of work?
I try to steer clear of anything controversial, really. But sometimes, you know, as a content creator, you do sort of feel at odds with your audience sometimes, and to express the difference in opinion and how it can sometimes be difficult to appease a large crowd of people. You know, sometimes expressing that is quite useful, and the creative dishonesty video was a way of doing that.
Was it basically triggered by an event that you saw, or just going back to your word, the itch to talk about that?
I suppose it was just something that was quite dear to me because I mean, I was absent from YouTube for about 6 months, and there were some people who were quite angry at me being absent for 6 months, despite the fact that yeah, it's like if you produce videos for, you know, on a weekly basis and then you stop, It's like the next week they expect you to do it, even though you have absolutely no compulsion to do so. You can, I mean, that's the joy of YouTube. You're free to do precisely what you want. But if you stop doing something that people are used to, they feel entitled to it. They get angry.
Well, you pretty much described 90% of the internet right there. But
yeah, sometimes I feel like the internet needs a good old talking to. Sometimes,
like a good old pep talk. Hey, internet, we need to talk. We need to talk about this, and this. Like, I think the whole gaming community had that kind of moment when, where at least the Call of Duty community came up with the whole thing about Bonderhart receiving death threats over nerfing guns.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. This is the sort of event that emerges sometimes from the gaming community. It's like, come on, we're better than this.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that's pretty much the whole pre-YouTube, although it was sort of a mistake because your user interface was born while in the hiatus of the Black Ops Weapon guys and doing your contract work with Activision. But let's take it back to the beginning. So you start YouTube, and why the name XboxAhoy? Why did you elect that name as your image, so to speak?
Well, originally the YouTube channel was secondary to a blog that I was planning. I was originally planning to start an Xbox-related blog. I wanted to talk about, new releases for the platform, new developments, and stuff like that. That was my original angle. I never really wanted to get into Call of Duty as kind of my primary output. But, it happens. It was around about the same time as the Modern Warfare 2 launch, and I posted a couple of Modern Warfare 2 videos, and they got a crazy amount of views. The hype train for Modern Warfare 2 was huge.
Yeah. As a curious note, the blog I helped run and into which I produced this podcast for also started during the Modern Warfare 2 craze days. Of all of the content that you could have chosen to start with, why weapon guides?
Why weapon guides? I don't know. Again, it kind of taps into my analytical mind. I like to break stuff down and sort of explain it piecemeal. So it appealed to that. And I suppose at the time, I think I was watching Future Weapons, which is a TV show, it's all kind of, it's all about guns and stuff, and it's all very statistics focused, and this is a 50 BMG round, stuff like that.
I can pretty much get an idea where you got the tone of voice as well. And
so that was probably an influence, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what else influenced it, but.
Okay, so in the whole race for weapon guys that started to pop up after yours, at least to your knowledge, do you know if you were the first person to do this?
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, it's not an original idea. I mean, even in the very earliest days of YouTube, if you look back to like 2006, you can see stuff for Counter-Strike Source. How to use the M4, how to use the AK, so on and so forth. It's kind of a natural thing. Like when you have a first-person shooter and you have guns, it kind of obviously, it raises the question, how do you use that gun? What's the best way of using it? How do you control the recoil? So, yeah, no, weapon guides have existed for a long time. It's just really, with YouTube being so young, it's taken a little while for them to become public.
We're talking about maybe 2009, if I remember right, when the Modern Warfare 2 launch was. Yep. Also, at least what I got from a Drift interview that I did before is that there was a lot of ignorance on whether this weapon did this and this weapon did that. So it also kind of like applied to that audience as well. Were you aware of such issues within the community?
I'm not sure if I was aware when I first started, but yeah, I'm certainly aware now that there are a lot of misconceptions about stuff like Call of Duty and, what does what? Does FMJ increase damage? Does equipping Blue Tiger camo increase damage?
I'm ashamed to admit that I was one of the first. I was one of the few who thought that FNJ actually increased damage until someone like, no, Tyson, this does not increase damage. And I'm like, well, then what does FNJ does then? So in a way, I cleared up that misconception from my head. Okay, so while you answered this question earlier, to some extent, I just want to talk. I just wanted to know about the overall reception. The first, how many videos it got crazy views, and then you started doing.
Well, in the early days, things were pretty slow. I mean, compared to compared to some of the videos I did right at the start, the weapon guides did well. They were getting maybe a few thousand views, which, isn't, I mean, by today's standards, not spectacular, but back then, I was happy with that.
But back then, how many views a video would have to get back then to be considered popular? Like, I don't know. Give me an idea. I wasn't really into YouTube back then.
I think if you broke 50,000 views on a video, I think that would be, a reasonable. Well, that would be pretty high. View counts were less inflated back then. There certainly weren't any million view counts on Call of Duty videos.
Yeah.
Maybe 100,000 on the top end.
No, I avoid mentioning the current numbers because those videos has been posting a long time ago, and there may be people who like, oh, Xbox Ahoy did videos back then, so let's go watch them. So, watching it, so it may include the stats from today. I'm not quite good at this type of analytics thing, but there you go. How did you got approached by Machinima?
It took a little while, actually. I was most of the way through the Modern Warfare 2 series, and I think one of my breakthrough videos was the M16A4 video for MW2. And if I recall correctly, I think it was Hutch who first noticed me. Mm-hmm. And I think he linked me on his, Twitter, Facebook, and all the rest of it. And I got quite some attention with that one. And that was really one of the key points in my growth.
Let me see if I got it right. Before you started working with Machinima, you had the series on your channel, basically, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's not like something you're producing for Machinima. You're producing it for your own, but they but you can monetize through their network, basically.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, by the time that they joined Machinima, if you had the rights to the weapon guys, you didn't have to upload them to Respawn or exclusively to Respawn. I was wondering if there was a clause in the contract that negotiated that, or since it was a series that predated the deal you had with Machinima, they let you upload to your channel.
Yeah, well, I think this is the end. Well, the end of my Modern Warfare 2 series was around the same time that they started introducing channel partnerships as opposed to just partnerships on the Respawn channel. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I really wanted to do is keep all of my videos in the same place. So I was never really interested in, producing videos for another channel. But when the opportunity to actually monetize on my own channel came about, I was, of course, it's money for basically nothing. So, of course, I took them up and off for them.
Okay. And going a bit to the person and then back. You have let your viewers know that you kind of feel the burnout of playing Call of Duty like every single week too, because you produce the videos, and then that influenced the decision of, you know what, I'm not gonna commit to a single game for a whole year. But back in Modern Warfare 2, did you experience that same kind of burnout, like a time where you just wanted to drop the controller and just stop, or was it a different condition?
Probably not. No, I mean, I think the series was a bit easier to produce. I was working a regular job at the same time, so the videos were, they were a reasonable length, but they were less maybe heavy on the editing side, and I actually quite enjoyed Modern Warfare 2. It was actually quite good fun, and well, towards the end, like I say, I found some success, and that kind of lifted me up a bit.
Okay, and then when did you saw feasible to consider dropping the what U.S. listeners would call the 9-to-5 job and then do YouTube full time? Was it with the partnerships or something else entirely?
It was really a sort of combination of things. I think it was April 2011. My job with Expansis came to an end, and I was offered voluntary redundancy, which gave me a bit of cash. And at the time, I was starting to earn reasonable money from the Black Ops series as well. So I thought, well, this is actually all right. I can carry on with this for a while, and then maybe see what I'm going to do after that. And then I think again in April, just a couple of weeks afterwards, I actually got an offer from Activision for doing the Call of Duty Elite videos.
Okay. I had that question a little bit later, but I'm gonna ask it now. We're talking about how many videos in what period of time?
The Call of Duty Elite stuff.
The Call of Duty stuff, yeah.
I think it was 105. No, wait, hang on. 102 videos in the space of about 6-7 months.
Oh wow. We're talking mostly the 7-8 months. We're talking about maybe about 32 weeks or so. Basically at the rate of 2 videos a week, basically producing for Activision, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
And that includes, obviously, a little bit of time off in between the Black Ops element and the Modern Warfare 3 element. Also, I had 3 weeks in LA as well.
Yeah, the Call of Duty XP flight. Only if you're in the liberty to discuss. So, what is it that happened exactly? Because you produced the Modern Warfare 3 guides for Elite exclusively, and then when you try to do a condensed version for YouTube, they asked you to take it down. Are you at liberty to discuss some of the details?
I shall try not to go into too much contract detail, but essentially what happened is there were 3 parties involved. There was Activision, there was Machinima, and there was me. And I don't know, I'm a little bit unsatisfied with the way that my channel was handled in all of this, because I didn't really have any clear direction as to what I couldn't do. And, in the absence of any rules, you do, what you can. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I had an agreement with Machinima. Machinima had an agreement with Activision. I had an agreement with Activision. Mm-hmm. I didn't break any direct agreement, but unfortunately, my videos contravened an agreement between Activision and Machinima, mm-hmm. which, it's a complex contractual matter, and unfortunately, the videos had to be taken down.
But how could someone claim copyright over something that was essentially yours from the beginning, and then you basically did a condensed version for YouTube in which people have seen the Elite videos, people have seen the YouTube videos before they take it down, and they're radically different. Like they covered the same mostly stuff, the format known as the normal weapon guide. Like, did they give you a more specific reason besides Machinima infringing upon Activision?
Sadly, I haven't seen the actual clause, which was mm-hmm. the infringing one, but there was probably a non-compete clause or something in there. But I wasn't party to the contract. I wasn't party to it, unfortunately, because it was, like, say, a 3-way agreement.
Okay. So basically, so the YouTube weapon guide express was a no-go, but then to kind of supplant that, you came up with the Weapons of Modern Warfare, basically covering the new guns that were featured in Modern Warfare 2, right?
That's right, yeah. It was essentially the missing minutes from the history section that, obviously, Activision weren't interested in the real-life history of the guns because it throws up sort of copyright issues with the manufacturer and also other, complex legal things. So they didn't want the history in the actual Elite guides. Mm-hmm. So, actually producing those missing minutes as separate videos, that kind of, made a lot of sense. And it let me do it because, obviously, it was outside the remit of any sort of contractual stuff.
Yeah, it's not like you're discussing stats on those videos, just mostly, like you said, the history of the... And what about Time to Kill? That also plays into the analytical side as well?
Yeah, that was essentially an in-depth look at the mechanical side of Call of Duty.
Okay. Any particular reason why you got inspired to do so? Because those guys, even now, like 2 years later, after those videos were produced, I still see them being pop up to kind of like, okay, so here's this guy, XboxAhoy. He did a very good breakdown of the mechanics in Call of Duty. Even now, I still see them reference. What was your state of mind back then to make those videos?
It was just trying to find a way to sort of explain the game without doing it through the usual weapon guide format. So it was, my efforts as far as weapon guides were blunted. So I thought, well, let's find another avenue to talk about the similar aspects. And so Time to Kill emerged from that, principally.
Okay. And then you started to go back to the unfinished Black Ops series back in YouTube. The play was okay. 1 week we have Black Ops, 1 week we have Weapons of Modern Warfare, and 1 week we have Time to Kill. If I recall right, that was the structure of the whole weekly process videos, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, and you probably ask people for, hey, I already did the weapon game for Elite. Why do you guys go check it there? But no, you actually went back to the game, redid everything from in your own format, and then continue onwards. Was it more the I don't want to have an incomplete series on my channel, or something else entirely?
That was a major part of it. Just finishing it off, because you don't want to be known as the guy who doesn't finish series, do you?
And you have many people pissed off by by leaving, like you mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah, it was kind of an appeasement, I suppose. And, well, more than that, it was something to do while we were waiting for Black Ops 2.
Okay. Yeah, like Modern Warfare 3 was being covered by Weapons of Modern Warfare, and then the whole Black Ops thing. I want to talk about it a little bit about the side projects. You've been doing bonus footage since basically the whole since Modern Warfare 2 to an extent, because you also included leftover clip after the commentary was done, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Were those kind of way to free up hard drive space, or was there another thing driving it?
Essentially, they're just a leftover artifact that comes about from the making of a weapon guide. So I record all of my gameplay, I process all that gameplay, and then I select the best clips for the actual guide itself, and I'm left with a whole bunch of clips that weren't selected. Mm-hmm. So, it's a question of, well, it's gameplay highlights. What do you do with it? Mm-hmm. So what I did is I condensed them all down and then rendered them, and then uploaded them on a second channel.
Just to be clear, you don't erase anything that you ever work on. It's sitting on a hard drive, basically.
Everything with the exception of footage, because footage takes up a lot of space.
Okay.
So eventually I have to get rid of footage. Otherwise, I'd just be inundated with terabytes and terabytes.
I was kind of looking for this one by myself, but I couldn't find it, because eventually in the bonus footage you started to do commentaries. What were those mostly usually about? And then before the time where you actually started questioning from the listeners?
I can't remember precisely. I think it came about. People just kept on asking me, I like these videos, Stu, but it'd be nice if you talked over them. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, all right, fine. Maybe I could do that. Maybe that would make a more valuable video. And I did. I don't know what I talked about at first. I must have just rambled on for a while.
Probably.
But eventually I sort of had the idea of taking questions from the comments and then talking about those, or answering questions, that sort of thing.
Probably the obligatory question now. What are the questions, or a question that you keep getting, and you just want people to I have answered this multiple times, I don't want this question anymore?
There are a few that turn up every so often. Mm-hmm. I'm not too bothered by any of them, really. One that comes up quite often is why you called XboxAhoy.
Well, and then the first time you got it, you talk about it, and then the rest are like, nope. I'm not letting that.
Questions like that, I slip them into the mix every 6 months or so, just to make sure everybody's had the answer.
It's basically and basically the commentaries are a mix of humor, satisfying the people's need for knowledge, I guess.
Basically, it's just rambling on, but it's prompted by the viewers. So people seem to really enjoy it. I'm not sure why.
Also, I was wondering, because many people who come from who go to the secondary channel have gone for the first, are the number of views and the number of subscribers almost equivalent, or we're talking about a certain percentage of the people who are subscribed to the main channel also subscribe to the second channel?
Let's talk about the second channel's. It's always been smaller, but it has seen a bit of growth. I think there's probably a hardcore of about 20 to 30,000 XboxAhoy fans. Okay,
and then I don't know what came first, the Let's Plays or Retro Ahoy. I think it was Retro Ahoy. basically fueled by your leg of old school gaming. I think
Well, back in my day, we just called it gaming.
I was reading a really awesome article on Polygon about when does the console start to depreciate. I don't know if you came across that of when the 360 and the PS3 would actually be considered old school gaming.
I think a good rule of thumb is 10 years. If it's more than a decade old, then it's pretty old.
So while you told this story already, just for the matter of clearing it up, how did you got started on gaming?
On gaming, I don't know. I think I was born into it, to be honest.
Okay.
When I was growing up, my parents actually had an Atari 2600. So from my very earliest days, I've been exposed to it. And then, I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I think we got a ZX Spectrum, an 8-bit computer. That was where I first started to learning, programming in BASIC.
Okay.
And then from there, I eventually got my own computer, an Amiga 500 Plus.
Yeah, you're really fond of that. Most of the games that you covered on Retro Ahoy were either from the Atari or the Amiga era, right?
I guess so, yeah. Well, 8-bit, 16-bit, that sort of era, yeah. That's kind of the beginning age of my my gaming experience.
From, if I recall right, from the rambling of on the Amiga, it didn't seem that you played Nintendo, had you played Super Nintendo. You're basically stuck with the Amiga for the majority of the 1990s.
I've only ever really been a fanboy for one platform, and that was the Amiga. I stuck with that system doggedly because it was, I don't know, it was just my computer, and it was everything I ever wanted.
And then when it was time to, I'm sorry, my friend, but I gotta move on. Which console did you jump on next? PC, right?
It went straight to PC gaming, yeah. Commodore, the manufacturers of the Amiga, they actually went bust in 1994, but I stuck with my Amiga till about 1998.
I guess that's as much I can get out of Retro Ahoy. Let's move to the drinks Ahoy, because also probably from the bonus footage, it seems like you're a big you're a big fan of good brews, or I don't know if I should call it alcohol, and you're not feeling salted or something.
I don't know, people get confused. Like, there's a difference between enjoying beer and being an alcoholic.
No, again, no. How I use the term, I'm not referring it to alcoholic. Just enjoying alcoholic beverages.
Again, yeah, there's a difference between being big on drinking and being a big drinker. My consumption, for the record, is moderately light. I have a couple of beers a week.
Okay, and then it's like you're the kind of guy in the circle of your own friends of where, hey Stuart, can you recommend me a beer or what's being offered here? Okay, so I recommend this one. I recommend this one. From where did you got those? I guess that experience, that kind of knack for good tasting beers.
I think it's less of a knack and just more of an interest. If you're interested in something, you pursue it as a hobby, and eventually you start learning about it.
Okay. I'm struggling to think here if the first video of such content started on the main channel or started on the second channel. Also another type of content that has been received quite well, I must say, especially the Minecraft one, the April Fool jokes. How did the idea got started, and is it personally something you look forward to every year? Like a little bit of history, if you mind.
Well, my videos have always been, described as serious. People don't think that I have a sense of humor. Most people who've just seen my main sort of channel videos, and this is back in the day before puns, so people used to think I was quite dry, quite serious. So April the 1st, it's a time for levity. So I thought I'd, do something left field and, surprise a few people.
Although to be honest, anybody, I personally recommend it. Anybody who wants to listen to Stuart's more light side, listen to an episode of Painkiller already that has Xbox Ahoy. You think you did 2, right?
No, I think I just did 1. I think it was episode 60, if I recall correctly.
I don't have it written here, but I remember listening to that, and I don't know, like in the parts in which you do make an intervention, it was like seriously funny. Also the whole awkward questions part. I think you did a few other episodes, some other another podcast as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about about the last place. It's a relatively new series, but where do you hope to go with it? Like what it, like a little bit of history. Where did it, how did it got started, and where do you hope to go with it?
The Let's Plays. The thing about those is I don't really like doing Let's Plays.
Why not?
I did those because people, they keep on asking for them. They, play this, Stu, play this. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of doing live commentary. I prefer to take the more edited approach.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think there'll be an occasional thing going forward. I wouldn't want to do one every week. But, if I get some time, then I guess I'll indulge my audience.
While we've been talking mostly about things that have been on the secondary channel, like with the decision of that you no longer want to commit to year-long series, or does any of these have a chance of actually making the main channel?
I don't know. I like having compartmentalization of edited and scripted stuff on the main channel and the more freestyle stuff, the experimental content on the secondary channel. I like having that division. But I wouldn't rule out, the possibility of stuff graduating from one channel or, maybe going the other way around.
Now that you swore off year-long series, what's next for Xbox Ahoy? What is it, the type of content that you want to work from here on forward?
Well, I'm sort of getting the impression that YouTube rewards those who are more reactive. People who can actually flex and bend and change and respond more to trends rather than just committing to an entire year, large blocks of single series. I don't know, it gives me more of a chance to be creative if I'm doing a new, different video every single week. Having said that, though, obviously weapon guides is still very much my thing, and I think a lot of people would be disappointed if I didn't cover Ghosts, or if I didn't cover newer games like Destiny and Titanfall, are both games on my radar.
Okay.
So what I can see myself doing is maybe having periods where I'm doing random, eclectic videos for maybe a short period, and then I'll commit to maybe 2 months of a certain game.
Do you think the audience is there on the main channel for those kind of videos, or there's always the risk of losing one part of your audience, but while bringing in another?
If you have an established channel and you change direction, you're always going to lose some of your audience. But losing your audience, that happens all the time. If you do the same thing for too long, you're losing your audience. If you change topic too rapidly, you lose your audience. You lose your audience no matter what. It's just one of those things. You can't really sort of control it. You can't stop it. So I guess ultimately you have to kind of go with what you want to produce, because it is my channel after all.
Yeah, it is. I guess that's pretty much the questions that I have for you, Stuart. While the people that may listen to this probably knows where to find you, but just for the matter of letting it clear, where can you be found? Your YouTube and your other sites in which you are quite active.
Well, my main channel is youtube.com/XboxAhoy, of course, and then there is my secondary channel, which is youtube.com/AhoyXbox. And there are a few other, places where you might find me, but I prefer to keep those a secret.
Yeah. Also, as the last part, is there probably? I think either of you would have an appropriate finish if it came up with a pun, considering we're talking about Xbox Ahoy here.
I wasn't told there'd be pun writing.
But is there something that you can come on the spot?
I'm taking a break from puns.
What? Too many people said that you have bad puns. Or maybe,
I don't know.
Or maybe it's a pun touch video. I don't know.
That was kind of saturation point for me. But that's another question I get asked a lot. Is, Stu, how'd you come up with your puns? And it's, well, first of all, you need to have obviously the video itself has kind of an intrinsic angle to it, like the gun name, for instance. If it's called the Scorpion, then the angle which you're going to take is pretty obvious. Otherwise, there are contrived puns where you can make an analogy and then play off that. But yeah.
All right, to wrap it up, I want to thank you for your time, Stuart.
No problem. It's like I say, it's been my pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure too.